Going live, people. We're going onto the internet. But I want to add you. What's your phone number?
917. I'm gonna write it down. Yeah.
Good idea.
Otherwise,
It on the
people
internet.
hitting me up later, and that wouldn't look good.
Oh.
Oh yeah, there you go. Aaron, I'm giving him my number here. Accord, I'm giving Sam my number now.
I'm gonna text you.
Not it.
Thank you. We did such a good job planning that we didn't schedule coverage. And then our two regular people who could do it, those didn't have conflicts, one of which was us.
You can always look my daughter's invite her for Raleigh too. She's a chef.
You're right there too?
She's in Sullivan, but she always likes to visit me. I would force it. I feel like we had to come.
What I'm doing. All right, guys, it is 7 p.m. here in Signage. Manchester. May we call the order and this the flag. One nation. All right, Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Okay, Chairman. Mr. Zarowski,
Here.
Mr. Williams. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Pinsky.
Here.
Here. Mr. Grasso. Mr. Jarvis. And we have the attorney for the town, Mary Lou Christiana, joining us via Zoom over there.
All right. First is some announcements and communications. September 27th workshop meeting decision. I will make a motion to hold the workshop. We're going to have to make a motion because it's always open. We usually just have to cancel it because we will need to use it for the CUSAC decision. So we don't need a motion there, but we will be having the workshop at 6:30 on the 27th. Also, remember October, the meeting's on Thursday due to the Columbus Day holiday. So it'll be on Thursday, the 14th. Usually can cause some, whoops, what am I doing here on Monday when you don't need to be there? Training and did you distribute to everybody?
There's a couple of puppies stuff floating around.
So it's that time of year again where we're enrolling for, we need to have all of our 4 hours of credits done. Madam Maloney, you have 2.5, half of a carryover, so you need a half credit. Mr. Zarowski, you have 5, you're covered, you have 2 carryover. Mr. Williams has 8 and he has 31 carryover. Mr. Pinsky, you have 2.5, you have 28 credits carryover, so you don't need any more. Ms. Lindstrom, that would be me. I have 3.5 this year with 46.75 hours of carryover. It's too bad we can't barter. Mr. Jones, you have 2 so far. You're in a bit of carryover.
The booby prize.
The booby prize. Mr. Grasso, you have 6 with no carryover because you couldn't have carryover because you weren't here to carry anything. And Mr. Jarvis, you have 4.5 ditto on no carryover, but you guys are set. So Madame Maloney and Mr. Jones need to do a little training, which segues beautifully into the joint annual planning conference starting in October. You guys got, everybody said, everybody has one? Okay, perfect. This is online. I know that Zorian is signed up and Rick is signed up. It's a full conference. Lots of days, like from 12 to 4 on some of them. The first one is October 1st. And then they have them through all the month of October. So doing any, all, or any way, shape, or form of those would get everybody with plenty of credits. We also have, Dutchess County does very good trainings. We have one on September 28th as a sidebar. And with viewers, they're all coming up now in these trainings, land use issues for legalized adult use cannabis. So this apparently is a new theme for land law.
Is that in person? Samples provided?
I knew you were going to say that.
Gotta bring your own.
You just have to visualize or smell it. They also have one, why we need to build more housing on the 26th, and a Department of State overview of general market law 239, basically covering county reform. So between that whole gang, everybody should be able to cover their, I mean, I've covered all of the training going into the end of the year.
Can I just confirm that the meeting in October is on the 14th?
Yes.
7, still 7?
We'll be unable to attend that meeting if that affects anyone else's plans.
And action on minutes, as you remember, I went through and had to add some things to the July 12 minutes, based on how we phrase going through seeker and calling the roll call, etc. So I could make a motion to approve July 12th minutes, unless anybody has any further comments on the minutes of July 12th. Okay, all in favor? Against? Abstain. I did not get a chance yet to go through the August 9th regular meeting, so I'll make a motion that we table those to the workshop
So
meeting. Second,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain. All right, our first application is planning board 2021-16. It's a lot line improvement for John Sturgis, doing business as Towpath Road. The applicant is proposing a lot line deletion to combine SBL 77.2-4-48, 1.7 acres, with SBL 77.2-4-47. That is 2.26 acres, or a little over a 4-acre parcel. The parcel is in the R5 zoning district at 436/442 Towpath Road. So being this is R5, this does get the lot more compliant to the, does everybody have maps on their computer? Would you like to see? Essentially, you have a long skinny. Do we have copies of any?
I have copies of the PDF.
Okay, so little, if anybody needs to see.
I'm fine. Most.
That's down.
Oh, Sturgis is here? Is John Sturgis here?
Mr. Sturgis. Yep, right there.
Want to come on?
Questions from Mr. Sturgis?
Another question. I noticed there was a applicant owns 92% of the lot. Who else is the owner?
My sister
Green.
was a family property, and then their niece and nephew.
So they have the other 8%.
Excuse me?
You're 92, and then.
And my sister and I are 92,
Right, and the other people are the other.
or the other. I can move actually, now I just pay the taxes. That's how it works. It's true.
I'm just noticing, we rarely see the combination.
Right, exactly.
Well, we appreciate, the other lot is not, we're gonna try to restore the other lot. It's, it's been washed out. And it's one of the things we want to do, take the cabin out That's if we get approval on the zoning board to put the house in the other side.
Okay.
We do get some combos.
We do.
had-
That's what
The head of the ZBA did a combo.
Okay.
The chair of the planning board did a combo. So,
Is that what that was?
yes, I did a lot.
If you're chair of a board, you do
The
combos.
chairs of the board.
We did one.
You did a combo also, right around the corner. I'd say we actually are probably close to 50-50. The lot line being combos or shifting them back and forth.
I don't have any other questions. I don't either.
Then I'll make a motion to certify the lot line. Yes,
Excuse me, 1 minute. I don't know if there's a map, and all I have, of course, is the map on the Google Drive.
Mhm.
So I don't know if this is actually been updated by the surveyor. What he's doing is clear. It's just he's deleting that line in between them. But I want to make sure that this can be recorded in the county clerk's office.
Well, this is the most recent.
But it's a survey. It doesn't
Hmm.
actually have a surveyor on there saying this is what's going to be, this lot line is gonna be deleted, and then there's some things, tax map blocks that are written in handwriting. So I think concept is fine, but, it's not gonna be recorded, that they're not gonna accept it as real property. And our law says that it needs to be a survey. And I know it's, a recent survey, but it's not a lot line improvement survey.
Would a survey without the lot line be acceptable? I mean, I could just have them redraw it.
so Mary Lou, since it is a survey by a surveyor,
Local amendment docket.
and Biden Eggers, if
Maybe they can print them out a new map.
I think she's just saying the formatting and the,
all you would like is for them to have officially the SBLs across the street from Towpath and
It's not,
a squiggle.
I can't tell on my computer if this map says from the surveyor lot line to be deleted.
No, it doesn't.
We need that on there. We need it to be certified. We need it to be the title block changed to say lot line improvement.
Okay, that can be done.
All my mistakes, and I'm okay if you
certified plan.
certify this conditionally. But as it is right, it won't be.
Accepted by the county.
That's easy to do. I mean,
The line you're deleting, a little squiggle, the is a lot line. And
Redated.
a lot line redated, change it from survey map to,
We need a new seal on it. We need a new still
Yeah.
to sign it.
and also a condition of approval will be, we have a lot line note that they have that we can give to Medenbach and Eggers. So we have a lot line note that goes on to all of our lot line changes.
so do you have something you can send them or I can send them that, or do I just ask for that?
Nicole and I will put together a letter detailing that you need to remove the lot lines to be removed. Mr. Eggers sign it, have all of the SBLs across Towpath also on it. All of it doesn't take a resurvey, pretty much. And they can, lot line condition, and you should be fine to do it.
So you tell me which.
So that letter should go, to Mr. Sturgis.
Yes.
And then, because I think that obviously at some point he hired Ben Bogdaners. I don't know if he has again. So I don't know if we should send it to them, because I think.
Now, we send it, we always send
I did.
We always send it to, yeah. And if anything, we CC the people who did the survey. So
We recently did some more work on lot 48 for the zoning board, which we're in discussion with.
Right. So could I have a motion to certify the lot line improvement conditions on updating of the maps as we have discussed?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain. So you're good to go for now.
Since I'm here, let me ask you, I want to restore soil, which is a huge washed out area for possibly many decades, 100 years, when it was used prior for they parked their vehicles to mine. It's going to require about 1,500 cubic yards because it's 3 feet deep, 85 feet by roughly 170. And I just want to stop it from washing through, which I did. It came right, just. And so we would basically, there are 2 channels, a little berm there, and you bring the property soil up so that if it comes in the road and then it goes, it dissipates in the wood, it doesn't wash out because you have planting there. You have flora. That's sort of, so if you don't have much of a slope on the ground, and that's what you'd have to, and the counties are going to work with Ulster County soil and water. We've talked about this. So do I need a permit from the planning board for doing something like that? The state doesn't indicate a permit because it's away from the stream. It's outside the flood zone.
As far as I would know, Mary Lou, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you don't need anything from the planning board or the land use there. You could check with the code enforcement office with Jerry Davis.
Which I did.
It's not a planning board issue.
Okay. So I've done that. So I just want to make sure I cover all my bases.
Doesn't need anything from the DEC?
No, they won't.
I don't want to get involved.
No, because it's not a wetland, it's waterway. It's not in endangered areas, it's near a endangered area. It's not in the flood zone, it's not impacted the bank. I mean, I went down a list when I've talked to them before, and not our area of expertise, they basically said.
Sounds like you're lucky. Yeah.
Well, if you have a permit, we don't get involved. You don't require a permit from the state. So, but I just want to make sure I pass it by enough people to make sure.
You should be okay on our side.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll get you the short list of updating the map and you should be good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yeah, really.
Yes. Here Thursday. Thank you.
Next on the docket is Planning Board 2021-10 subdivision. It's a continued application public hearing for Maureen Kelly. It's a minor subdivision areas. 2-lot minor subdivision of 14.78 acres. Lot 1 will be about 5 acres. An existing family dwelling, garage and pool with an existing septic. And lot 2 of about 9.8 acres to contain existing horse barns, corrals, / paddocks with the intention to construct a single family dwelling. So does anybody need any refreshing on my part on this?
No,
Do you have the bigger maps? Yeah, let's do the bigger maps because they're hard to see on.
just 2. I'm surprised that he wants to cut off. He wants to cut off. It's kind of weird. And second thing is just, did you comment on the wetlands in the corner? It's not.
Good.
Okay.
They don't identify them as wetlands.
There's no mention in the stream or anything.
No. I mean, there's wet area, but they don't show it as national wetland inventory doesn't show it.
What about what we pulled up or what you pulled up from
That comes from the
DEC?
DEC mapping. It's pretty de minimis way in the back there.
Right, and there is no stream. I mean, there's a little swampy wet area there, but it's, like I said, it's not showing up on, no, there's nothing, we have nothing going on back there. But the reason
Why does it look like a crazy truck?
Okay, because there's horses.
That you mentioned this last.
Remember that?
She wanted to keep the horse trails on the parcel that she intends to keep.
This.
Right.
Gotcha.
And I always try to say, let's not do this. Let's make things nice and, but that's what they want. So kind of stuck with. No, I tried to say, let's square this up, but that's where our horse trails are.
The DEC
Just a map.
environmental map, exactly. So the key one is in the front, which Terry put on the map.
Which is, there's no development there. It's already developed. There's no changes in use or anything.
So lot number 2, she may build in the future, but that's not being proposed now. It's just.
Zorian, any questions?
Well, I read in a previous meeting, no, basically, I wasn't sure if it's stop needed for map, or this what actually came because in the folder I didn't see it. Okay,
Yeah, a lot of times it's very tough to get to scan and get it into the folder. You can put it in, but it looks like it's illegible. Sam, do you have anything?
No.
Right?
No, I'm good.
and one more question. Do you have the proposed lot 2 can support well and septic?
That will,
I was hoping to have the tonight from the engineer, but it didn't show up today. They've done everything. I'm just waiting for the letter. So if that can be a
the
condition.
condition of approval.
And I didn't receive the road maintenance, the shared driveway agreement. I'm still waiting on that from the attorney. But as soon as we get those in, we'll forward them on to you.
We asked Sorian in our letter, follow-up letter,
Yeah, I remember reading that.
condition of approval.
So all we can do tonight is. public hearing.
We can still do a decision, a condition, if we did, after the
With the
public hearing, after we hear from the public, after we do seeker, because you have to do seeker before you do a public hearing, which is what I was about to say. And depending on what we judge and think, that you could or could not do a decision, but let's do the seeker first. So I would make a motion for this to be a unless uncoordinated seeker action. Right. That is a roll call vote.
Terry Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Pinsky.
Yes.
Ms. Maloney,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
and Mr. Williams is absent.
All right, so for our short form, part 2, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? No. Will the proposed action result in a change or in the use or intensity of the plan? No, or small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No, or small impact. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No, it's not in a critical environmental area. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No. The proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies? No, or small impact perhaps. Public or private wastewater treatment utilities? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? No, or small impact. Will the proposed action result in increase the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Anything of small impact? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources and health? No, for that. So I would say, if everybody agrees with those, based on the information provided to us and the analysis and our supporting documentation, it will not result in a significant adverse environmental impact, thus a negative declaration. Do I have a second for that?
Second that.
That is a roll call vote, please.
Chair Lindstrom,
Yes. Make
Yes.
that.
Ms. Maloney,
Yes.
Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Grasso.
Yes.
All right, so now I shall open it for the public hearing. And in general, how we do a public hearing is you're talking to the board to give us information that we might not know about the land, about the use of the land, things that could be going on, because we obviously don't know every piece of land that is out there. And it's not a back and forth. Unfortunately, unless it's a very simple question, we don't go back and forth and say, yes, this, no, this, et cetera. It's really for us to get information we might not otherwise have. We limit it to 7 minutes of speaking, which they find usually is plenty. If you don't think that you've had enough time and everybody's had a chance to speak, then we will let somebody come back for a second go. Do you have the phone? I do not have mine up. I could do the 7 minutes. On top of it. First, we did receive 2 letters that I will read in reference to this application. From Gail, I might not do a good job here, Yongen Banada. To the board, I am writing in regards to the requested subdivision of Maureen Kelly's property, 60.3-1-6.2 on Shroon Hill Road in Cohunkston, which borders me. While I doubt that this email will have any power to block this request, or even that anyone cares, I cannot sit by without comment. The board should know that I have been a full-time resident in the town of Rochester for over 50 years and a part-time resident since birth. I own my parcel since '86, and I've been a full-time residence location for 30 years. When I moved into my house, I believe there was only one other full-time resident on Shroon Hill Road between Schwabe Turnpike and Via Pioli Road. It was remote and very quiet. That is what I came for. Since then, many of the existing parcels have changed hands and houses have been built. My water supply has diminished over the years to the extent that I had to rebuild my well 200 feet deeper, and just 2 years ago had to hydrofrac to get an acceptable water supply. It is costing thousands of dollars. What I would like to understand is the true intent of the subdivision. Maureen has essentially been an absentee Airbnb landlord for over 5 years when she moved to Massachusetts. Will this other intended single-family home become another Airbnb? Will both parcels be sold? Will I ever know a true neighbor on that border of my property? There's no comfort in living next door to an Airbnb with no on-site owner or manager. Just because the temporary tenants may pay their bill, there's no guarantee they will not start a fire or trespass on my property and get hurt. Maureen and my family used to be friends, dare I say good friends, but I last saw her in 2017. She did contact me a few weeks ago. I was unable to connect you to my responsibilities. Perhaps I may have gotten answers to my questions. I hope the board realizes that progress sometimes means leaving things as they are. More houses, more population, even if on for the weekends, puts added strain on the infrastructure and changes the character of the area. With recent increases in real estate sales, one would think taxes would be down, but that is not the case either. I guess I need to know how the subdivision will make the town of Rochester a better place. Sincerely, Gail Young and Van Nutter. That was the first letter that we received. And as the board knows, the most pertinent thing in that would really be the water issue. Everything else is really not germane to what we do, whether we agree 100% or disagree 100%, it's not germane. But if there is a water issue that Terry will hopefully find out when he gets the stuff from the engineer, then that could influence the ability to build a second house on this area. And the next is from Barbara Strasson. Hello, Ms. Knapp. Thank you. Our property is across the road from the existing driveway and property in Ms. Kelly. Is it possible? I pose these questions. Will there be a pool installed on the new property? If so, does the town of Rochester assume the water table for this and neighboring properties will not be impacted? So it seems we might have some water issues in the area. Pool or no pool, that doesn't come for us. We have what is in front of us, and that is then the building department determines pool issues. That is a building permit issue. So those are the two letters we have. We have a list also, once again, Ms. Bianca Van Nata, and would you like to speak any further? You are on the list here.
I really would like to know what really kind of subdivision is. Because Maureen has, and like I said in my letter, we've been good friends, so I would hate to even rumble any feathers. But she's cleared so much of her property. And with no regard to, wildlife, the area, and then she moved. And then she said the Airbnb, no idea who's next door. I see, people have, used fireworks in the middle of a drought summer. I've heard little barking dogs that are obviously distressed. And I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know if there's something where she's over there, whether I can go and say hello, or any of that. It's kind of nice when you live in a remote area to know where the heck is their window. And the water is a big deal to me. And that little swampy wetland, that also I'm concerned about. That's probably one of my biggest things. I've had issues with the property line that she's just clear cut. Whatever, like, okay, yeah, I want to put whatever here, and let's just cut everything down. And we've had to stop her a couple of times. And I don't want to go through that again. That's just, I don't have the energy in my life. I don't have time. If somebody doesn't know their own property line, that's not fair. She's cleared so much that we can see everything in her yard. I can't even cut the dead trees down because of the tree that's in somewhere.
What side of the property is the lady?
On this side here. And the property line was very well delineated, and there was no clearing that was even within 20 feet of the boundary line when we were out there.
And that's only
So,
because we stopped her.
That may be, but I'm just saying that there is no, I've been on that boundary line 3 or 4 times, and you can't even see your house from being on the boundary line.
You should come to my house and you'll see her trailer.
I'm not gonna argue that point. I'm just saying that
Fourth, remember.
there is no clearing to the line. There's at least the closest is maybe a 20-foot buffer. And then it's wider throughout there. There will be no disturbance to wetland because we're not proposing anything. And any of the new lot that's being suggested is completely across the other end of the lot from this property. So there would be no disturbance along this line or along
Guys, let's keep it
this
going
here.
Everybody, if there's anybody else that would like to speak, and then the board can go through and discuss further. I want to let everybody have the equal opportunity in the public. Mr. Van Natta, do you have anything to add? Okay. And is there anybody else in the public that would like to speak about this subdivision? The ample crickets time?
Jeopardy song?
Jeopardy. Do I have a motion then, if there are no further comments from the public, to close the public hearing on this application?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain. So. Anybody on the board have any commentary in light of the added information?
Well, yeah, 2 things. Planning board, unfortunately or fortunately, can't legislate good neighborly behavior.
I would just like to add one thing that I know Miss Kelly was very concerned about the neighbors. She spoke to me about it a few times, and she said that she was personally going to reach out to her neighbors.
Okay.
And I believe I heard that it said that she did reach out, but she never connected. She didn't want to speak to all the neighbors and explain everything before this went to the planning board. So she was very concerned with the neighbors.
The other thing is it's once again not in our purview, but the town board is working on a short-term rental law that might alleviate some of the issues you're having with that, that's not really us or whatever, but keep your eye open on that.
The second thing
Passed,
on
I
the pool,
Did pass?
I believe so.
I have a,
All right.
on the pool issue, if she has a big built-in pool or any size pool and there's water problems, it'll have to be a real mistake to fill the pool from your own well. It's just,
So nobody.
There's an existing in-ground pool that's there, but she's not, there's no plan for anything additional.
you get whatever's needed, come with the big,
Careful.
Jericho to come with the water and he fills it up.
and he fills it, so. But that wasn't you that wrote it, somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Guess I'll just add that the request that we're getting about the well, that's something we've done in the past in these situations because of water concerns, and I just want to point out that we're doing that again. It's become standard practice for us when there's well drawdown concerns.
I think it's a bit of an aside also, but we're starting to see more and more development now where we have a water,
Right.
potentially a water issue in the town. The non-water issue development places, if that's a definable term, have been developed, and we're now pushing in some areas where we do have some water trouble. But that's sort of a low level thing that's going to be thematic through things.
A lot of communities are dealing with marginal land being developed. It's not the best to be.
Exactly. I do have a tentative draft decision. And I am not.
Maren, be around the decision without knowing what an issue.
We can make it conditional on getting getting a department of, if the Department of Health approves the well, the Department of Health approves the well.
I understand, but
Intensive enough of a subdivision that we could ask for a hydrological study. You would have to have you'd have to have, was it 2,000 gallons per day, etc. So there's really nothing more than we can do in our current code the way it is if the Department of Health approves the well. So it'll be.
I understand. But in the past, did we do such a conditional approval?
So we've quite often done conditional approvals conditioned upon the Department of Health approving the well.
I remember we were waiting for letter.
Right?
It could be.
He doesn't.
Department of Health.
Or also the certification.
Structure that a one-family residence is built, because if they don't go that for a while, the whole subdivision itself.
Probably not. He doesn't have intention of developing this for some time.
So I have a draft for everybody to look at, a conditional final approval for planning board 2021-10 minor subdivision. Applicant is Maureen Kelly. This is SBL 60.3-1-2, 14.7 acres. It's R2 zoning district. If you flip forward to the findings, the planning board received zoning referral and determination letter for a minor subdivision from the code enforcement officer. The applicant met with the planning board and presented the subdivision map for review. The board discussed and reviewed the proposed subdivision and requested additional map details, topography, and ecological overlays. Parcel is in the R2 zoning district. The applicant proposed a 2-lot minor subdivision. I already read that, 5 and 9.8. The existing plat is filed with the Ulster County Clerk. The current use of the parcel is residential and woodlands. The proposed lot 1 has an existing single-family dwelling, garage, and pool with existing well and septic. The proposed lot 2 contains existing horse barns and corrals with the intention to construct a single-family dwelling which will need septic and well approval. R2 zone districts are low-density residential districts. This district is intended to recognize and preserve the integrity of predominantly low-density rural residential areas of the town and to protect them from incompatible uses. The rear of the parcel lands to subdivided contain Ulster County Habitat lands, New York State DEC Hudson Valley Core Forest lands, as defined by the DEC. These are interior forest areas surrounded by at least 100-meter wide buffer or edge forest. Avoiding further fragmentation of core forest will help conserve the integrity and value of ecologically significant forest patches. 6. Upon review, it was determined by the board that the core habitat core forest lands do not appear to be at risk of disturbance, as any new dwelling is proposed to be situated at the front of the proposed lot 2 near the existing horse stables and paddock corrals. The suggestion to limit disturbance in these lands shall be included in the conditions of approval. The application was determined to meet the requirements of an instant seeker action. A negative declaration was determined upon review. Public hearing was held. The board reviewed the proposal had safe, the proposed lot had safe and legal access. The board concluded that the proposed lots will have adequate, greater or equal to 50-foot frontage on the town highway. The proposed access is for new lot 2 is via a shared driveway. The board requested a road maintenance shared driveway agreement for the proposed subdivision. Receipt of the road maintenance shared driveway agreement shall be a condition of approval upon review and acceptance by the attorney of the town. Parcels R2 zoning. Upon review, the board concludes that the 2 proposed parcels meet or exceed the bulk standard requirements for R2 zoning. And lastly, the board reviewed the proposed lots to support water and septic. Lot 1 has existing water and septic. The planning board engineer certification or Ulster County Department of Health approval for the new lot 2, that the new lot 2 can support water and septic. This shall be a condition of approval. Anybody have any?
Just a point on water on number 12. Should we reword it or something here that says that the new lot number 2 can support water and septic at the time that a house is actually proposed for build on the property, because right now it may satisfy the water and septic requirements from the DOH, but 5 years down the road, the well that's drilled to show that it can support it now may not support it 5 years from now. Can we include that as a finding and then as a condition of approval that it's at the time that the house is actually built that they have to satisfy the DOH requirements?
Don't look at that.
I don't think we can do that because the thing we're approving is a line. We're not approving a house.
But we are asking for water and septic.
We're asking to say, like, if you want to divide it, the expectation is it will at some point have a house. But in the present, we just want to make sure that it's not gonna, that it can support.
Well, you're actually drilling a well, right now?
No.
Tested?
No.
We're doing the same thing. We did this with, we like met in the firehouse or something that one day. And we were talking about, it was another subdivision where there was a similar concern. And what we ended up asking for was for an engineer
That's right. It was one
to certify with a letter that the property would be able to support it, because we don't really have any other tools at our disposal. And I think trying to put that in the future probably makes it less likely, because we can either sign or not sign a new map. We can't like sign it with an asterisk that we're gonna unsign it
So
in
now
5
remember
years.
what we asked for before? Are we asking?
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
It's the same thing.
Same thing that we did.
You go to build a house, okay, in an approved subdivision, and you drill a well, and there's not a viable source of water there, they won't give you a building permit to build a house. Drill another well somewhere else. Regardless of whether we create this lot or not, at the time that they build, they have to get an approval from the Department of Health before they can build that the well is suitable. So this whole thing with the water really is kind of a catch-22, because we can talk about it here, but until a well is drilled and until it's approved by the Board of Health, that determines whether that lot's buildable, not anything we do here.
Because in theory, the density, so you could just build another house without doing a subdivision. Because you have, it's R2 zoning and there's enough acreage. So
In
you
the
could,
well that's there.
she could put two more houses in theory, but they just wouldn't have been subdivided in between. But if we want to have a verification from an engineer or the Department of Health eventually, that to try and avoid someone doing a subdivision where you have this
Or unbuildable.
exaggerated Sahara Desert is over there, and the Department of Health goes in and says, there is no way this will ever be able, we're gonna give you a heads up and say, maybe you shouldn't do the subdivision. If it was-
And that's the hard part, is even to get an engineer to say that it's suitable for water.
Wouldn't you?
Anywhere in New York State is suitable for water, depends on how deep you want to drill and how much money you want to spend. You know, so it's even hard to get an engineer to say that, you know, because how do they know? They can look, you know, obviously there's houses built all around, everybody has water. There's wetlands, there's some sort of water there. Now, whether that will meet Department of Health approvals, how is an engineer going to know that by looking at the ground or looking at the soil tables or looking at the bedrock? He can't tell. So it's a tough question, but the ultimate answer is the Board of Health has to approve the well. And that's what determines whether they can develop that lot or not.
And
Do
this is
they actually approve the well, or do they just approve the distance of the well from the septic?
You actually have to submit a well log showing that there's enough gallons per minute to sustain the house and the number of people that are going to be in the house. And until you get that approved well log, and that you can't.
No, somebody has to drill something.
At the time of building.
Usually it's at the time of building. Yeah,
catch-22 with all of this, it's like two catch-22s is, the aquifer is there and a couple straws in are okay, but as soon as everybody puts straws and the last person trying to do it, there's nothing left in the aquifer. But if right now the Department of Health, they do the test and it's got sufficient water, it's got sufficient water. And
there's no way of knowing that till a well is drilled.
So essentially she can subdivide, but theoretically wouldn't be able to do the house.
Theoretically, she can be denied building a house, yes.
I think we're talking in circles. We're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We don't want to create unmoving
we're
number.
having a discussion. That is the move on. That is the Sam would like to move on.
Yes. So that's all I'm saying
This is the fine.
to making it a condition of approval that I get an engineer to say that it's suitable for water is just, you know, that I might not be able to get an engineer to say that. Because it ultimately becomes down to Board of Health, where they pick to drill that well, where it come, you know.
That's true, but
We're in the findings right now.
we're in the findings right now, and that also is been what we've done for all of these, and it's in our code, we request that, so that's going in, because it's in the code, because we request that as 140-125-XYZ. Anything else? Board?
Move it.
Could I have a motion to, motion to find? Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, the subdivision plat, I could not actually, do you guys have one of them there? See it?
The date.
Is it June 28th? June 29th?
There, only one date.
The 9.
It might be.
I know, I just got here.
That says 29.
No, July 24th, 2021.
Oh.
You have
The map here says 29.
Because that's the first date that the map was printed. This is the revision date.
So you don't have a current map? Where's the?
No,
revision
it's
date?
on the left side.
On the left side.
Yeah, you can- July
24th,
Sorry.
2021.
There it is.
There you go.
This date's got the 29th, this date has the 26th. We'll go with the
Well,
24th.
But the subdivision plat dated July 24th, 2021 is approved with the following conditions. Okay, could you make a note that we have that in the documents? Preliminary site plan revised. I had the 26th, so I was done at 24. I will change it. July 24. All fees due to the town of Rochester involved in this application shall be paid in full prior to the chair's signature on the final plat. The applicant shall present a road maintenance shared driveway agreement duly reviewed and approved by the attorney to the town clerk, signature of the final plat. Any costs or fees associated with such review shall be the responsibility of the applicant. Evidence of satisfactory shared agreement for ownership and maintenance of the shared driveway shall be provided in the form of deed covenants, plat details, and a road maintenance agreement prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued for any dwellings on lot 2. The applicant shall present a final plat for signature. The following plat note shall be included on the final plat. Any further subdivision shall be treated as a major subdivision under Tor Subdivision Law 125. Subdivision shall adhere to Tor Subdivision Law 125-21 and 22, general site requirements and subdivision design, specifically 125-22(1) and 8. That's largely about clearing of woodlands and staying away from wetlands. 3, shared driveway. The proposed ingress egress easement shall be used in common with the owners of lots 1 and 2. All such easements shall be in effect and binding all owners of said lots, their heirs, successors, and assignees, and all future owners of said lots, their heirs, successors, and assignees, upon filing of the subdivision plat in the office of the Ulster County Clerk. And lastly, the planning board approves the use of a shared driveway as shown in this plat to service no more than 2 single-family dwellings via access from a shared driveway to the establishment of a right-of-way. The shared driveway shall be utilized for no more than a total of 3 single-family dwellings or lots, including the lot is access over. The final plat shall show the proposed locations of septic well access, egress, and structures. Certification shall be provided indicating the lot is capable of supporting on-site water and septic in the form of preliminary or final approval by the Ulster County Health Department or a signed letter by a New York State licensed engineer. The applicant is encouraged to replace any lost trees with native habitat and discouraged from disturbing the Ulster County Habitat Core lands, New York State DEC, Hudson Valley Core forest lands existing in the rear of the proposed lots. A required local, state, and federal permit shall be secured for the current and future use of these lands, specifically local driveway permits. This approval shall expire 180 days from this approval date unless the final plat is presented and signed by the chairman. This period may be extended for 2 additional 90-day periods upon application to and resolution by the Town of Rochester Planning Board. Town of Rochester Planning Board next minor subdivision conditional final approval permitting the subdivision of lands upon satisfactory completion of the conditions of approval 1 through 3, and grants the authority of the chair to certify that the condition has been met, reassign and date the plat without further resolution at such time. Make sure it's 1 through 3. And 5.
One, that it say, said section 125, chapter 125, or then put it in a specific section.
Subdivision chapter 125 instead of law chapter, right?
That instead of section, put in.
It says any further subdivision shall be treated as a major subdivision under Tor Subdivision Law 125. So I have to change the law.
The symbol means section.
Section to where the little section symbol is.
Yeah. Got it. Get rid of the squiggle and say chapter instead. Okay.
Thank you.
So
Just a typographical.
and 5. The owner shall file in the office of the Ulster County Clerk such an approved plat bearing the chairman's signature, any other related documents within 62 days from the date of signature, or such approval shall be deemed to expire without further notice in accordance with New York State Town Law 276. The owner shall have the responsibility to return 3 Ulster County Clerk certified copies of the filed plat and any other related documents to the Town of Rochester Planning Board within 30 days of such filing. Do I have a motion to accept the conditions of approval with the changed subdivision plat dated July 24, 2021, and reflecting the changes of the squiggle, which is not the proper term, to be chapter 120. The section,
We get it.
section to be changed to chapter.
I guess I have a question. So all these plat notes we're putting, we're just writing those and then we're putting them in quotes because we're indicating that's exactly how we want them, right? They're not.
That's exactly what it says in our code, yes.
So, okay. Got it. So we're cutting and pasting from code sections. Got it. Great.
Nice to have that Word document, so I don't.
You could make your own.
We're happy to send you. We have a Word document that we can send you.
Also, you can cut and paste from eCode.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Put out PDFs.
Would you please not digress?
Sorry, I got you.
Gotta make-
We got him covered.
I got you.
Okay, Do I have a motion to accept the conditions?
Motion to accept the conditions.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstained. All right, we will send you a Word document with those.
Thank you. Yes, because that's none of my dyslexia issues.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
All right, our next.
Enjoy the rest of your
I'm
evening.
gonna recuse myself. Just
Using yourself from the get-in application because she has some relation to the applicant. The next is planning board 2021-01 special use permit. That should be not SPU, should be SUP, site plan approval for Mr. Getman. The applicant is proposing the use of an existing barn for parties, music, and charity events. Various, it is not commercial special events. These are commercial. Commercial activities as was, let me find it exactly as it was defined by the code enforcement officer.
Commercial recreation.
Recreation, thank you. By being defined as commercial recreation, this does not limit the number of events as a commercial special event. The parcel is located 92 St. Joseph's Place. This is SBL 77.3-2-7.114. It's 21.4 acres. It's R5 zoning. The surrounding parcels are residential. We have Peters Kill running along one border of the parcel, and the parcel contains steep slopes leading to Peters Kill. A small portion of the parcel is contiguous to Ulster County Agricultural District lands. And the parcel already contains 2 wells, septic, and 2 principal dwellings, barn, and small accessory structures. So after the initial pre-meeting, hello, and then he arrived. Mr. Getman put together a more robust path for the planning board, showing some, as there were not a lot of the details for 140-20. For any commercial event, we needed lighting. We also need 140-17, which is parking. We needed some sound analysis. So I will hand it over at this point to Mr. Getman to run through that which you have received. It's on your dime.
Well, sure. The one thing that may not be in here that I sent over by email was Decibel Tests running.
Okay.
I have it. So
As of latest, it was a couple of days ago.
I have a copy for you.
and so it showed no additional decibels over at each of the lot lines, and I guess it's limited to 10 decibels, but that was playing it at 89 decibels inside the space, which is just about ear splitting, and would never, I think, be higher than that inside the dance space. So there's, I mean, I'm not quite sure what you would like to know. My hope is that I've covered all the bases here as far as parking, showing where there's parking within the close to the dance space, a little ways down at the start of the driveway. At the moment, those spots are not gravel, but I would fill them with gravel as if otherwise approved.
So right now you are proposing 22 or 25?
25 all together.
25.
Yeah, I made a mistake in one spot. I wrote 24.
So on the parking side, the assumption is typically for parking that a car can bring 3 people. So that would be 25 cars, 75 people. And
You would never have that many people. I have never got close to that.
so this is something that the board should think of, limiting the number of people that can come to this. I also, have you discussed with the code enforcement officer the building code aspects? I mean, at some point, there's maximum occupancy of a space. What is the maximum occupancy of the?
I can't speak definitively to that. It was named at the time it was permitted, and it was specially reinforced floor. And my memory is that it was 50 occupancy in the dance space, but I don't want to.
I think in somewhere in your documentation, it says 50.
Yeah, that's to the best of my recollection.
That's
I
okay.
think I said that in there, that it was, I'm not,
That was determined by what you thought was the load bearing ability of the floor that you had.
right. There was special LVL joist under the floor, and it was set every 12 inches as opposed to 18 or whatever. Or overrated.
I would gander, we should probably send a note or double check with Jerry that this is, or have the applicant double, just,
Do that.
yeah, double check that.
So I guess, I mean, I agree. What is the occupancy limit?
The occupancy limit and set the event limit at the occupancy limit sounds relatively intuitive. Yes, Orion?
So the dancing gonna be on second floor, is that A-frame?
It's not really an A-frame.
Looking at the picture,
It has knee walls on the side. So as you can see, I don't know if you can.
no, but this,
Yeah, that's the slope of the roof.
all right, so my question is, how you can dance in those corners? So if you should consider an open space completely rather than, I recently was arranging some place and I was hitting every time. Is that,
Well, you're already doing it now, aren't you?
Well,
no,
I've
but
got
we don't know
parties
what,
there.
50,
There's no,
50 people, because they're gonna dance here, they will be dancing there.
Well, the code enforcement officer is going to tell us how many people will fit in that space.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm asking a basic practical question. I'm not saying that I'm gonna make a conclusion, but it appears to me that your usable area is only under rules that is parallel to the floor. For dancing.
well, I have never seen anybody clap their head there. It's fairly
Yeah,
obvious,
if we're talking
but-
about this, wow.
and
Basically, you need to, I think, if I was first code enforcement, I was asked, what is this area under the parallel roof, on the horizontal
Yeah.
roof?
So, I mean, there's a bunch of things that affect that slightly, I would say. We put cushions along the side. There are kids that come. So there's, I mean, I dance along that side quite comfortably. Some of the kinds of dancing that we do are not, a type of dancing that would cause someone to hit
Some
their head.
degrees, Orion, it's nice to know, but not, I learn more about the land use and the parking and whatever, so if people like dancing where they get concussions, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm not.
Dancing,
But if we're talking about 50 people, how realistic is that? That's essentially.
it might not be realistic, that's a business decision on his part, and we have to go by what building code says, and I don't know if there's specific building code for dancing or building code for assembly if you're seated. So this is why we need to have the applicant or Jerry clarify, because we don't do building code.
Right, I
It's
understand.
different for mobile building code, and it.
We don't do the building code, we don't do fire code. And
Right.
We don't do fire code.
More of a camera.
But what I could say is if, let's hypothetically say it is capped at 50, let's hypothetically, and probably it'd be worthwhile to lose some of the parking spaces, especially the ones that are farthest away, because that's your most difficult lighting issue. If you have 7 that are.
Right.
And
It's a short walk from there, but I would
still, there's
still,
no reason to have them if you're not going to have that number of people.
The occupancy of the dance space is the limiting factor in terms of parking. That's what you're saying?
I would figure.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
odd.
But the other thing that just strikes me, and this is a lot more than we saw the first time, is that we need more formal maps where this is all drawn as a site plan that can be accepted by us. It needs to be drawn by a surveyor or an architect, somebody. For the lighting, we need the side view of the buildings. We need to see where the lights are going. When there's a whole, throughout our code, there's a whole definition of what we need in terms of paperwork in order to evaluate this. We can't use hand-drawn on an existing map. We need somebody to,
Well, we can as long as it shows everything we need, and I think this doesn't get to the level we need in terms of detail.
And take it drawn.
It has to be drawn to scale.
We have plans when it was built, correct?
Sure.
Sam is right. It needs to be, if you happen to be a, was it CAD CAM person? And that would have to be,
Yeah.
so,
it's just not drawn to scale. It's not,
You have to see where the lights are.
I mean, this can't be filed in the county. It's a special use. It's great, I understand it, but it can't be filed the way it
you
is.
probably, so exactly where the lights will be positioned, you do describe all lighting everywhere on the door, we shield to detect the light. So the light you either have or what you're going to buy, so we can set
One light.
and the tear sheet. So we need tear sheets of what, and if you are, we know lights along the driveway, on grass, the solar string lights, the 50 Edison bulbs to be fixed. So to post the sheet, how many posts and how many Edison lights will be there. So we need to see the actual,
Pathways between the parking areas and wherever the event is being held. We need to know there's gonna be pathways. Are they gonna be walking on the road, if there's gonna be pathways instead? Probably needs different lighting as well.
and this is a question once again for Jerry. I mean, we require for this amount, I believe then the density would be 1 ADA parking space. Obviously close to the door. I don't know if you need ADA compliance to get people upstairs to dance for this type of use. That was something, I don't know if you know, Mary Lou, or
And that would be,
Jerry.
that would be a Jerry question.
Okay.
At the same time, I'm thinking, I don't know, trying to offend the handicapped person, but handicapped person dancing or dancing.
They definitely dance.
Definitely dance.
And I've had, I mean, we had folks who are on oxygen and bring up oxygen. You know, people do. It would not be feasible to have a wheelchair.
So but that's another
Once again, that's to advise,
permitting
Yeah.
double
check
check
with
that
Jerry.
with Jerry. That's not our purview.
on the restroom access. I had similar questions about whether I don't know what the rules are about restrooms. I know with other special use type permits, we've required,
Very accessible.
or porta potties if the
Handicap.
septic and well on this property are
Yeah.
designed for residential use. So if you're adding a surge of 40 or 50 people for 5 hours, that's a lot more wear and tear on the septic. So we just need to know, again, that may be a Jerry question, but it's one of the things we have to make sure
Exactly.
people are coming and it has to be safe.
Other question, I'll take back to the noise measurements. Did we ever in the past took data from the owner rather than asking for some professional to take measurement?
Every time, a lot of times we have.
We have taken data from the owner, yes, previously.
Did, on that point, again, these numbers were bizarre, I think, in the sense that,
And then it was lower with music, yeah.
and that to me indicates that it needs to be redone. Because, we've had this issue in the past when we have people do their own readings where there's anomalies which sometimes accrue seemingly to the benefit of the applicant. And this one in particular, where your readings are actually lower with the noise, it seems like I would like to see that redone.
Yeah, but also what kind of equipment you're using?
So Chair,
It's
This decibel meter off of Amazon,
Right.
you know.
Okay, you know what I'd like to see with this? I love the detail it's given us, but it needs to be more professionally done by professional site planner. And somebody who's knows our code would be able to say, no, you need one ADA, or hey, this bathroom's not gonna work, or all that kind of stuff. It's gonna tell you what the tear sheet has to have on it. It's gonna tell you, and when we get into sound studies, I want somebody to check whatever's submitted by the applicant. We've done that in the past. And so I'm thinking it's both a special use permit and because it is, it's also a site plan. This needs a review by our engineer. It's beyond my capability of evaluating whether the sound study is sufficient. Beyond my capability to say, yeah, that meets code in terms of what he's submitting in terms of number of parking spots, the whole 9 yards. So I would recommend to you that this gets done by a professional
We can ask
site plan
the
person
architect to,
so that we can review it and we can actually feel good if we prove it, putting a stamp on it and having it filed. And it needs to be reviewed by our engineer, CPL. And so I'd like to find out whether Representative Liz has an idea of what amount of escrow needs to be posted for her to get involved in going through the details of this to make sure it meets all the codes, all the applicable codes. Because there's a lot of moving pieces here.
my understanding was that she recused herself.
Somebody in
I
the
don't-
firm.
CPL recused themselves?
Yeah, Liz has a.
I have to recuse myself because I'm the primary representative for CPL.
CPL doesn't have to recuse themselves.
Right.
CPL doesn't have to recuse themselves. So, you know, there are other people at CPL that could do the review. I guess they'd have to be at the meeting, write up any reviews.
So you're not able to tell us what we're gonna need in terms of escrow?
Ballpark,
So give us a ballpark.
3,500. Which should cover review of a submittal, attendance at a meeting, you know, a write-up, attendance at a meeting, maybe another review, I don't know. I'm just guessing what typically happens with most applications that come to you. They at least go through 2 rounds of review. So that would be my suggestion.
And is the rest of the
I mean, it's cut and dry in terms of the site. He's not changing the contour of the land. He's not, I mean, it's none of that mechanical stuff that has to be reviewed.
That's true.
Stormwater drains. It's simply, is the parking up to code? Is the lighting appropriate? Are the tear sheets appropriate?
I mean, I'd say, I mean, maybe could wait. We could maybe could wait 1 round before we
That's what I was gonna say.
do escrow
I
with
think Jerry
CPL.
needs to give us some.
Let Jerry give some information, let you work with your architect and get things, because that would probably save the applicant some money on that. And then if you have a real sheet, you can see everything to scale, et cetera.
And you might not be able to.
Yeah, maybe the board won't even need to.
And you might, based on what Jerry says, you might not have what he is requiring, which would put a stop on things, or you're interested in moving forward with what he needs. Whether that be a handicap accessible porta potty, a larger bathroom, there could be things that you want to get checked off the list prior to going to.
Right.
So maybe get together, if the rest of the board is in agreement with your architect, and get it sort of to scale, pictures of the lighting, pathway. If it's, my gut would be this is going to be capped around 50, maybe get rid of some of the parking that's close to the road. Signage, if you indicate your signage, but we like to see what it looks like.
Yes, I thought maybe you would come out in some, you know, I'd be happy to show you and sort of see it in person if that's possible.
And we love to do that.
We love site visits.
As long as we do it in
Hey, you think you'll-
3 or less.
Yeah.
Something to munch on before we get.
That'll have to-
No, not food. Something definitive that we can take the map and say, okay, now I see where it's going.
Okay.
Just to do, don't get me wrong, a la visit.
Well, sure, I just think you'll understand
But I don't think-
the distance.
Exactly.
from
Work
the lot-
with
their lot lines
with
and things
your-
like that.
architect to drill down a little bit better with the true sizes of all this. You know, it also says here in the introduction, music and dance, occasional workshop, no events with equipment or catering. So that would be a condition of approval that we would say this, you know, with all other conditions, this is approved, but not for things with food or equipment.
And I know we can't limit the number of, just by virtue of how it fits in the code, it's commercial entertainment. But would the applicant be willing to say, here's how many events he will limit himself to during the course of a month or the year? And some sort of, for other recreation events, Arrowwood, they were required, I believe, to give a notification to the building inspector 3 days before every event, something of that sort.
Yeah, you have that for commercial special events. I don't think, Mary Lou, type up here that we could say voluntarily, what is this called again?
Commercial recreation.
But you could limit the amount, but we could have something of, for a period of time, like we've done conditional approvals, that you get approval for a year to see how it goes. And then you have to come back, and if everything went okay,
As long as everything's compliant with.
then you get the full one, and that would be a way.
You continue, if it's not, they're given time to bring it into compliance.
Exactly, and that
If
would,
that still doesn't happen, then the permit could become null.
right.
And Mary Lou, can we limit the hours that it takes place? Well, I'd like to limit the hours.
Sorry, he said, yeah, exactly. He said, can we limit the hours that would take place? I don't think so, but what is your opinion?
No,
No, that's what I thought.
no.
I have a question going back. So remember, please, what was the cause for this noise complaint from neighbors or traffic?
My understanding, it was traffic. And
Okay.
so far as I know, nobody's ever been able to hear or has complained about noise. So in all my conversations, it's always been traffic.
I would definitely get somebody to do a professional decibel reading, because they need a crew out there to make sure. And then that you have that, because it's insane. People abuse that all the time too. I'm not saying that you would do that, but it's just like over the past week, just like, there's something happening close to Medicahans Road, and I live up on Lower Whitfield, and you could hear it like it was in your backyard. So it's really important that you do get somebody professional in there and get a crew out there and stuff
So
like that.
there's something that could be done is, you do some various professional readings.
Yeah.
And then for the first, if you did a first year conditional temporary approval, then noise must be monitored for that period of time. And if everything turns out perfectly fine, then in the for forever approval after that, then they don't have to monitor all the time. And so you go through a 1-year trial of making sure that,
Yeah.
because it is true, whether it's humid out, whether there's wind, whether it's dry, whether it's
Exactly.
makes a massive difference.
Huge
And
Air temperature. Yeah.
And that's such a quiet area. I know that road is like literally super, super quiet. So
Is the only sort of house that's close, that's on grade, is John Walter's house at the little elbow on St. Chosen, and others are down in sort of gullies.
yeah.
And so I think that's why, and there's, Anderberg and Laflamme on the other side, but they're also quite a ways from.
I have another question for our attorney. I pushed my names down to again, Arrowwood, they're required, I recall, to give a report after every event as to the sound levels, so that if there was a complaint, the building inspector could go back and look for those sound levels. They would have it professionally done. I'm assuming, since there is going to be noise above what's normally happening, that they're going to we can require the same thing. Question mark.
I think it depends on what the noise analysis finds. If it finds that it's not going to affect the neighbors at all, and it's very clear, that's a different scenario. If, like Arrowwood, there's some neighbors that are pretty close and the potential exists, then I think it would be something that the building inspector would have to look at. But if it's not going to affect the neighbors at all, and it's not going to affect the neighbors, then I think it would be something that the building inspector would have to look at.
Right.
then we would probably do the same thing with this, but it so much depends on what the final readings
Right.
are,
Well, I think,
what the analysis.
and I understand what you're saying, and the reason why we insisted that Arrow would do that, make a report, is because you could be good players for the period of time of the temporary, but then when we give permanent approval to it a year later or a year and a half, whatever, they don't play well in the sandbox. And so the whole idea of reporting it to the building inspectors, so he would have something to say, wait a minute, you were supposed to do this, you played nice in the sandbox for the first year, but now you say, you know, anything goes, and some days anything goes over there. As
I
somebody
do
who
think, I guess I don't think sound is kind of the issue if you look at the area. I mean, it's true that humans do stuff like that, but you can also make a noise complaint to, you know, to police or whatever. I'm not interested in disturbing anybody's sleep or having that, and I just don't see that as being. Also, just one last thing is Arrowwood, right, is a concert venue with live rock bands, and
They just had one this weekend.
I have two
It's
speakers
it's
attached to the wall there about this.
Yeah, definitely.
I understand.
Okay, because this is it, what we could do as a condition that will, as Anne Marie said, better testing, you know,
Yeah.
at different, with a windy day or rainy day, at night, whatever of the noise. But since this is in the interior and he tested the test that we have with all the windows open, a condition of approval is that you could never take this outside with your speakers, et
Right,
cetera.
exactly.
And then you probably would be well within range. I mean, Arrowwood is live concerts outside. So it's guaranteed that it's a bigger.
I'm glad you reminded me of that. But just realize that the approval we give doesn't go with you if you behave well. If you sell the property,
Right.
it goes with the property.
Right.
We need to make sure
Make sure that it has to.
so on
be
in honor that we have some sort of ability to make sure that the residents are.
And remember, Arrowwood started out as a 24-person, 19-car tasting room, which is now blossomed, which I said it would, into this huge concert, you know.
It's like
So things do
Woods.
happen. So, you know.
So I guess at this stage, probably get back with a couple more noise studies, tweak the parking to be more representative, some lighting as to what the actual, I would say we require sometimes, guys, also a lumens report.
Yes.
I don't know if we can waive things also. I don't know if we need that. He's quite far away. I think we can waive a lumens report.
so long as the lights aren't going out, they need to be.
Yes, if you see that the light is going
Right.
as such.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're facing. lighting.
we'll do a round two before we get CPL involved, okay?
I mean, it sounds like it'll be fun anyway, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm putting it through the.
No, that's okay. I had thought that,
It's just,
handwritten and hand-drawn was acceptable, so, but I guess my handwriting is not.
It is acceptable. It just has to have the,
It just has to be really good person
I mean, your
acceptable.
sink looks like a smiley face, which I got.
I mean, and perhaps, I don't know, or like previous site plans that we've accepted that have been hand drawn, are those available for comparison's sake?
Any,
I'll just ask my architect to do.
Just so you, because like, we don't,
I thought
doesn't
we say one that was really good, the one up on Sampsonville Road.
Ravenwood. Well, with the ice cream shop, that was a hand drawn. The winery we just approved, a lot of that was.
yeah, but but we'll go on, the winery was done by an architect, so it was an architect that did it, so that doesn't affect.
The ice cream was done by.
Move on, guys, let's move on.
Yeah.
No, I,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next is planning board, where is my?
Malatesta.
2020-16, Malatesta, Lucci, and Pagazzi.
They're not here.
Like,
This is for a minor subdivision. It is SBL 67-1-6, 59 acres into 3 19 acre lots. Proposed lots 1 and 2 will have a shared driveway with a right of way from lot 2 over lot 1. The parcel is in the AR3 residential agricultural zoning district. The parcel currently contains a single-family dwelling with well and septic. New lots will require well and septic. It's at 85 Baker Lane, Bronxton, New York. It contains one of them contains everything.
Yep.
It has limited prime farmland at the front of the parcel, federal freshwater emergent wetlands with New York State DEC identified riparian buffer lands at the front of proposed lots 2 and 3. There's an unnamed New York State DEC identified stream at the front of proposed lot 1. Ulster County Habitat Core lands are the highest quality at the rear third of the parcel. And DEC Core Forest Habitat
That's not.
on the top 1% covers 2/3 of the parcel. It is also in a DEC defined significant biodiversity area, and it is a known DEC area for rare terrestrial animals and an Audubon important bird area. Sounds like a nature reserve.
This has everything.
What?
Holy
It's
Jesus.
always wet.
It's always,
The
the whole area is an absolute swamp.
I have a simple question and a statement. The question is, or more, probably both statements. I can't tell how much in the way of wetlands in terms of total acreage is present, not just on the property, but it's contiguous with all the other wetlands off the property, which is what counts when it comes to the development. The whole wetland. But beyond that, I don't agree with doing the short form in this project because it touches on so many items. I think it should be the long form, which could wind up in the same place, but the long form does a better job at identifying what's being affected, what's not being affected. And it may cause the planning board to actually say, well, look, you need to know how you're going to mitigate this impact, the impact on the wetlands. You want to know how you're going to mitigate this other impact, namely any impact question mark on rare species. So you hate to compare projects to other projects, but this is pretty much what we did when we had the animal sanctuary, the dog kennel. We had the long form filled out. It was a little bit more work, but it gave the board a far bigger impression as to what the impacts were going to be. And then they could say, well, this is okay, but this you need to give us some indication of how you're going to mitigate it. So
I would tend to agree. Does anybody else here think that we could, given
The question is short form versus long
short
form
form,
EAF.
long form, this should probably be a long
Long
form.
form sounds great.
Is there particular information that you're looking for that I should
that was on the long
I
form.
like the question about the wetlands.
could give you the answer? I believe it's actually in the EAF.
So how about we not go point by point? Just
Yeah.
do the long form, fill it all out, and then we can have it. Now, you're not recused from this, right?
No, not at all.
I also think that, yeah,
So this is going to be your review of all the material in the long form to give this board advice as to where we're going with this.
Yeah,
So
and
that needs to be done.
The nice thing about the full EAF is that it has, there are more things checked off all the way through that'll say it's either there or not there, which, you know.
I don't want to.
if you look at enough of the wetlands that also go, obviously, they don't just stop at the border. This could be, it is at this juncture, not a DEC defined wetland, but it's could easily be 12 acres of wetlands here. I mean, I'd like to see, we also have rare and endangered species. I'd like to see an environmental analysis of this.
Have we submitted one of those? Yeah, I don't have any of it. This is the first time I've seen it.
None of us have seen that. so
Oh,
far.
no, this is the wetland permitting, so you want to threaten it endangered?
Well, we probably will, but again, we should do the long form. We can
Driveway here.
That's what we need.
1% forest.
Oh,
On
Well,
this,
I think-
just interject, there
Oh.
is no disturbance to the wetlands in this plan whatsoever. I just want to put that there.
Some of the roadway.
It's worth saying
Across the
that
wetlands.
there was significant additional detail which was added, which is greatly appreciated.
yes, I agree.
The amendments to the plan also address some of the concerns that we raised, and that's also appreciated. So I just wanted to call out those things. This is obviously a challenging parcel. It's also a very large parcel. And I think given that the reason that these owners want to do it, like, I guess I personally have a little bit more inclination to like try to think about how to make this work, because it's a parcel that's owned by 3 people. It's a very, very large parcel in a 3-acre zoning district. And like, I just want to recognize that too, as part of what we're saying. Like, it does have everything on it, but we are keeping, like, if we compare where this action is happening compared to where there's already a driveway, and then also looking at the part of the parcel that isn't encumbered with all of these things, like, it's clear that there's significant effort in the engineering of this plan to confine all of the activities of those areas. I just want to acknowledge that too as we're moving forward. Like, it's a very big parcel. We're talking about a very small area of it, and a lot of the primary disturbance seems like it's this driveway, which is existing.
Exactly.
So I just, at least for me, looking at that plan, that's important context. Like, the biggest thing that jumps out as disturbance is the driveway, but the driveway is there. And the stream crossing is also already there. My biggest question is, why not just extend the driveway to the 3rd house?
Oh,
I feel like
yes.
we may have talked about that last time. Because then the second biggest disturbance is coming in for the 2nd house, which was adjusted again in response to our initial comments with the sketch plan. But it seems like if the driveway extended, that would reduce disturbance further. And then clearly there's some septic engineering issues on lot 3, which I'm not an expert in, but just given the distance.
More than adequate to, I mean, it's.
No, I just meant like it was hard. It was clearly like not a straightforward, we can put it right next to it. Like, clearly you had to.
He wanted it up on the hill. That's where he wanted to have his house. That's.
Right.
Right.
You clearly couldn't have the septic.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there is also the, I mean, I'm prepping it, we have, in my point being, you know what you're gonna say, Heather, you can do anything in an AC in an Army Corps wetland, will let you do anything, but you, like, house 1 is pretty, this isn't like cut in stone, it's like Rick said, where the wetland and the septic and the house, I mean, this is something to have an eyeball of it from someone like CPL who knows all of these things. It's worthwhile because there's so many wetlands here this easily you could have the DEC come out and delineate it, because this is clearly 12 acres of wetland. If you go to the other parts, they continues on other lots. So if they have somebody who's an environmental analysis, a threatened and endangered species, I mean, I don't know the threatened and endangered species offhand here. Maybe the houses are being put right in the nest of the threatened and endangered species.
There are on here.
Did you guys have a report?
Threatened and endangered species.
Did you guys have somebody do a?
We didn't do the T&E yet because we didn't get a hit on the T&E on the EIS, so we didn't go ahead and do that. But apparently the Audubon list is now something we need to be concurring with in order to determine if we need a T&E.
The T&E comes up.
Oh, the threatened and the timber rattlesnakes, which would be up on the T&E, not in.
They're everywhere. I live there, they come down. They don't just stay up on the hill. They go 6 miles around, they're dead.
On the parcel viewer, there's Habitat 4 overlay on this property too in the back. Just so you're aware.
I'll have him get a T&E report. We'll go ahead and schedule that.
And did you consider at all bringing a driveway across these kind of contours over to this house? Just a thought.
That would be much more disturbance than the way we have it now.
It was stone
No,
wall
but
here too.
if you're gonna continue this driveway, you're gonna have to go across some hectic. Yeah, just a thought. You know, I'm just talking
If
about.
this driveway goes away.
No,
and
this
gets
driveway goes away and you bring something, you're just following the contour.
So you're saying put a second driveway in because there's already a driveway.
No. Having all 3 come off of here, the initial assumption I thought was to continue this one over to that one, which is one possibility.
The client is very specific about where he wants the driveway, where he wants the house. So if he cannot have it, then I'll let him know that. But the way he has it is exactly the way he wanted it. He was very upset with the plan that we submitted before. He wanted his driveway on the edge. He wanted his house up here.
Obviously, this one doesn't get along with these two. Which is fine, it's fine.
They bought the property together, but then.
Not anymore. Bye-bye. Yeah,
You know?
so
Sure.
there's a lot of acreage here, that's for sure. And I know Stylerberg Strata up on the hill there is very, as you
I'm
said.
just thinking rather than having it go through this over to this one, that's all. Because I think that's
Like I
important.
said, the client is very particular about what they.
But if they went through here closer to the road, there's a possibility of following the contours.
Now this guy's got a driveway.
Hey.
Long.
Driveway in the middle of his parcel. Why would he want that?
Yeah.
And what is he,
So it's gonna have somebody going through the middle of his parcel anyway.
Well, right now he doesn't because that is his parcel. That's his house. You know?
Understood.
Oh, this
But I
one,
think what
I see.
the board is saying they would like to see this, a shared situation
Just
here.
bringing it
To
up as an
avoid
idea.
exact- It's something to look at.
Yeah, but I understand he's
What are they
specific
doing?
at what he wants, so.
Extend this
We don't have.
way.
we don't-
Yeah, if it's not going to be allowed. then they
She's
want to.
suggesting.
My driveway is the same way. I want it exactly along the border.
All
Completely
right,
get it.
so given that we're not.
But like this is
Let's forget about the driveways.
Moving on, I would say, as you presented earlier, Rick,
just do the long form?
do the long form, and I think we should probably
Habitat
do
assessment.
Pro or CPL to do the analysis of this, because there's a lot of moving environmental parts.
Well, I mean, it looks like you guys have done some work on it.
I want to compliment, I'm sure you've had a large part of this, and
Pretty
we
detailed.
appreciate this because this is
Yep.
very, very detailed.
Yes.
I can tell. Thank you for that.
Markers on the contours.
Yeah, this is-
Nice.
Much appreciated.
Frameable.
My draft ever contour.
What about that, before we are requiring, chart of the grades?
We can ask for that.
So in
I mean,
the-
do we need to have that, given that we can see that all we have is right, this is the only disturbance
Okay,
right
this one,
in is
okay,
that,
because this
will
one
be
already
this
existing
driveway.
already. Okay,
because this is already here.
that's already there.
Right, purple is
All the
existing.
way here is
Right,
all,
okay.
so it would just be this driveway and this house site and this septic.
You can see where the lines are. Is this an existing wood road here?
The,
Proposed driveway?
no, that would all be a new driveway, and the proposed disturbance for both the house and the house off of the lot 1 driveway, I mean, the lot 2 driveway, and lot 3 is a touch over an acre, I believe.
So the purple is here, so it's this that's being added.
No,
No,
that's
nothing.
existing.
The whole drive-
Middle is existing.
No, that is already
The
existing.
purple delineates an easement
The
or right
dotted
of way.
line is existing.
Proposed right of way.
Right, because lot 2 would be using the portion of the driveway over lot 1, and then
They don't need the right of way.
so it would be both of them branching and.
For the steep slopes, the only place that jumps out at me where I have some questions is the home site on proposed lot 3.
That's great, yeah.
I
Just
think
to see what, having that, whatever the heat map. as we've
He's up on a hill there. That's why he wants it.
is nice, because I can't tell, like, for all I know, that's not a very steep slope at all. Because
probably
it's 2-foot
10.
contours.
I can say, I could
Just-
just, measure it with a scale.
Right by the property, you could tell that home site, it's up on a hill. It is a nice spot up there. It's got a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I don't know.
That
how
doesn't
to
look
do
as
that.
bad as some of this.
Which is all the heavy.
Heather's got her, she knows how to do this. She's done a goat rodeo before. What would you propose as estimate?
It's about 15%, but I can give you.
Yeah, so that I think we would want to look at that just for the, because
Not
that's,
for the whole, I feel like for the whole.
So we're already starting with
To just do it. for that.
if it's all the same, then that's great. That was the only part that I saw that it was like, that looks like it's
I
gotta be.
make a motion to post escrow, because this is super well done, Heather. for
Thank you.
$3/4 of $3,000, just so all
Let's say
the
$750,000.
Right.
so all the pieces can come together and CPL to review this. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
And then my question is, are you gonna take some of the board's commentary and do another submittal?
I think I'm gonna wait to do the teeny, because like I said, this is what the clients
Okay.
want, so I need to have a reason.
So this version would be reviewed. It wouldn't be reviewed.
This is exactly this.
Okay.
If they want, I mean, Heather already moved the driveway way to the edge. We sort of have like an old farm road.
Well, yeah, it's
So it doesn't.
Doesn't go through the wetland.
This whole area is an H farm, is on the other side, is a great big swamp.
It is too.
Only a trail there.
Escrow and a wall.
It's not a long farm, and then some of a heat map, as it is said.
We're talking about the steep slopes map,
Steep
same as
slopes.
you did for the other ones.
Okay, and I'll do it as a separate.
Yep, separate sheet.
And,
just smashing those together makes my head explode.
right, and a community environmental happy plants, happy animals report.
Okay, and did you say $3,000 or so? Okay.
Yeah.
And
Are we doing the habitat assessment and wetland delineation? Or did you already have the wet?
the wetland's already been delineated by the
Report?
he doesn't usually
report.
do, like, he kind of does a report unless you ask him to really do a report.
If he's doing the threatened and endangered,
No, we'll
throw a couple paragraphs.
And Heather, so you know, we found the overlay in the parcel here. That's where the habitat core was at the back of the property.
Right, I know there's the habitat core, but then I'm used to going off of what's on here, on the DEC here.
This part, significant biodiversity.
Right, that's in the very, very back corner. Well, just a little bit of this slide here then. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and get that to the client. Is there any chance we can move this to public hearing next month? Or you want more information?
What are we talking about for timeline? Are we meeting, is there's stuff to being submitted?
Well, hopefully for the next time, we'll get a long form.
Okay.
I don't have the TNA by then.
We will hopefully get the TNE by then. We will hopefully have, as you said, well, in the TNE, there'll be some more commentary within
The steep slopes.
the steep slopes, et cetera, and then we'll review that in the next meeting.
So what's the next deadline date?
Next deadline date is the 27th, I believe.
That's a workshop meeting, so it's the same day. Okay.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks.
2 weeks before the next meeting.
I know with all the.
Funky.
For the dates. Okay.
And don't forget the next meeting's on.
Yes, I just heard that.
Oh, the next meeting is later.
Late.
No, 6:30.
Well, the
Oh, no, the
workshop is-
workshop.
Yeah.
You mean the time of the actual starts, the work?
Now, I'm gonna have to,
6:30.
is that the October
The
14th?
October meeting is.
Is on a
14th.
Thursday.
Does that make the deadline then? Does that make her deadline then the 30th or it
Whatever the
stays?
deadlines that are on the website,
Normal.
the deadlines on the website. So everybody's on the website and look, the deadlines on our website. And
So I'm gonna have to, I'll send either Greg or Megan Stone to the meeting. Because I'm actually doubly conflicted on.
So
Thursdays are bad news for me, sorry.
we might if we do it, she's got another town that she does on Thursdays.
Or 7.
Or 7.
Oh, just two.
Okay.
But she has 2 other towns she has to handle, a third is a bit too much. So in the future, we might want to remember to schedule to a Wednesday or instead of a Thursday. If we have the Columbus holiday conflict again.
Ryan, you had made a motion regarding the escrow and Anne Marie seconded, but I don't think you all voted on
Yeah,
it.
Thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain. Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Heather.
Heather. Nice,
You guys do
nice. meeting.
Tuesdays at all? You do Tuesdays?
We could do well when we get, I guess, to the deciding.
When we get to it.
Yes, we're done with you.
We're done with you.
Decide which day we're gonna switch to Columbus Day.
Well, Columbus Day's done. Yeah, that one's done. That one's done.
All right, moving on, guys. The next are 2021-14. This is Joseph and Christine Schneider, a minor subdivision. It's SBL 69-3-35.100.
I guess we could have read this.
Is 4.4 7 acres. You have been here since bright and early. So guys, this is a 2-acre zoning. You already have 2 existing houses on it.
No, it's.
There are 2 existing houses on it. They both have well, they both have septic.
No.
Everybody should know this. If you ever go to the transfer station,
Right there.
you've been by it ad nauseam. Yep.
Okay.
So this is pretty much as clean and straightforward as they come. I agree. We requested, because they're doing this themselves, they did not know, a short form, the EAF, so we have the EAF. We also have the agricultural data statement, because it is across the street from a farm. We requested that. There are a couple little things you're gonna need to get your, I did not see the actual map. You always have to blow it up and then you can't see it anymore. Who did the map for you?
John posted.
John Post?
I have a question about that map. I'm sorry. Is this typo or we are reading something wrong? Proposed well 25 feet.
Pardon?
Proposed well radius 25 feet.
Okay. This is an old map, Lorian,
Oh, okay.
right? That house.
Is already,
No septic and proposed house, they exist. They exist. and
I
they're septic, they have
understand,
a well and things.
understand, but I see it seems like arrow on.
It's an old, everything is now existing.
Yeah, I guess it's.
Sorry?
It's already been approved by.
No, I understand, but looking at that, it's a little bit.
Okay, so what we're gonna recommend to her right now is to tell Mr. Post
update.
to update this that says existing house.
Existing well.
septic, which is simple. Also, we need all of the SBL's deeds owners around you that he didn't have on this one.
We'll send you.
Right, so you basically, he should know also, you name all the people that, and do it across the streets also, across from Sand Hill and across from.
Neighboring properties.
That's what he would do.
Would do, and he'll know, he should, if he's calling the call right away, but he should totally know that.
And actually, just going back to Zorian's point, I think this isn't to scale. I think this is a bigger radius than 35.
Yeah.
Based on the scale, so. You could correct that.
With all due respect, I can't read your lips with your mask.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wore it because it said we were supposed to. So I think this radius is bigger than 35 feet based on the scale. If you figure that, I think we have 100 feet here,
Well, you're right,
95 and
because
61.
This says 35 feet.
Yeah, I think
here.
this is a bigger radius. Have
This
them look at
looks like
that.
more.
It's probably closer to 100.
I bet you that it's from the house to the well is 35 and from the house to the line is 35.
Yeah, it's a.
He basically did this, the circle of 100 around the well and put
Labeled
35 on it.
Right.
He needs to change that, probably the correct number, which is 100.
Okay.
Or the well doesn't even have to be on.
Doesn't even.
Yeah.
And the
doesn't
well,
have to be.
exactly, because
existing.
this all exists, he can just take it off.
Bye-bye.
Good thing I don't get carried.
Oh, we can send to you. Also, there's, because you're across from a farm, we have a right to farm statement, which you obviously know that you have a farm across from you. But it says you need to know that a farm could be across from you and it could be smelly and dusty and farming, etc. But we'll send you the pros of that, what he needs to write and put it on to the.
Okay.
That's basically in case you ever.
That's me.
Okay, well, we'll email that to you. If you ever went to sell it, then not that they couldn't sell a farm across the street, but then the people would know they're buying something that has a farm nearby. So it doesn't really change anything, but it is put on the, I don't think we have the zoning.
are.
And that makes sense, because some people buy property sight
Yeah,
unseen.
exactly. There's one other thing we can tell put on. We usually do a small, what do you call it, Liz? It's a view of.
It's the locator. It's like,
So it-
Northeast.
Area map.
no, no.
Location map. A location map. Is that what you, yeah.
Yeah.
Little map that shows it with the
We
biggest.
had it on the last one.
The neighborhood essentially.
So you.
It's like
you
a
can see
blow up.
Exactly.
with
You
the
can see the location of things around it,
And he can do it in 2 seconds.
Usually in the corner.
Right.
And your parcels.
Feels like the bigger neighborhood area and where this thing's located in that neighborhood.
Just like this.
Okay.
like that. Okay, yeah.
Right, thank you.
I think another thing, again, it's very straightforward. I don't think there's gonna be any issues here, but having a waiver request from the conditions of 125 that are not applicable. So like 125 requires the topo maps. It like requires all this stuff that we probably don't need to look at. So if you just, what we need is a letter that says that you're requesting a waiver from non-applicable portions of subdivision law, which is chapter 125. It can be a pretty straightforward letter.
We can give you a template if it helps
Yeah.
somebody.
We're gonna email you all this, by the
I
way.
have a template.
A template.
Yeah.
We'll email that to you.
Okay, great, thanks. Can I just ask a question, because I'm very new to this, and I haven't seen this map before. So there's one big lot. There's a house here and a driveway here, and you're proposing this line to do proposed house.
No,
septic.
the house and septic already exists.
That exists.
This driveway is here, this house. is
So they're
here,
just cutting it up. They're just
cutting
cutting
it
it up.
But we're in R2. we have 5 acres.
Gotcha.
Now have its own law.
Yes, 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 yes.
So no need to review.
Each house will be on a different line.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, right?
The first one's class, but the teacher's telling you what your homework is, and at the end you say,
What's our homework?
No. I've seen maps before, but
Anything else? Guys, that you can think of? I think
Moving on.
Updated maps,
I'd
waiver.
like to make a motion to schedule this for public hearing.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against, abstain. So, Paul and I can speak with, Mr. Post. He'll know pretty much everything of this. And send you the stuff, and you'll have your public hearing. And as long as there isn't something strange that comes out from the public, you should have your decision at the next meeting.
This map was only done last year in August, so.
Thursday, would be
Thursday, the 14th of October. Okay?
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Thank you for coming early and waiting. All right, now we have 2021-15
Rock map. don't know what happened.
for Untitled Chapter and the minor subdivision.
That's the final agenda of the law.
Thanks for waiting.
How to give you a little clock already.
David, my grandfather, Reggie.
Hi. I went to school at original Salisbury. I don't know,
Junior, probably.
probably.
Yeah.
So this is owner and applicant. They propose the division of the parcel SBL 68.2-1-74.200. It's almost 10 acres into 2 separate lots, one of 5.6 and one of 4.33. There are 222 Doug Road. It's in the R2 low density residential district. It's flat to steeply sloping. It proposes a shared driveway with a 50-foot right-of-way through lot 1 to lot 2. Proposed lot 1 is an existing single-family residence, well and septic. The parcel is wooded and is in the top 5% DEC forest condition, contains full forest to the rear of the parcel. And my number might be off, but you do have the Pacom of I not touching in any way, shape, or form this lot, but off to the back. You do have, what, maybe half a mile away-ish, a quarter of a mile, I guess. You guys have anything to add? captured it pretty well.
Yep.
Um, who did your map again? Is it Mr.
John Post, yep.
Okay. Mr. Post needs to.
Slacking.
He's slacking. He needs to do some more stuff for you guys also. So conceptually, this, at least to me, looks fine. I don't know the rest of the board. Anybody have?
I mean, we'll need to see, it's like flat to steeply sloping. Definitely curious where the flat and where the steeply sloping.
Yeah, exactly.
I can show you what's,
From here, it's flat. Okay. The steep slope starts here and goes down to Doug Road. So what we're gonna need is the map to be done with the topo.
Okay.
So
You can pretty much take everything that the chair said to the last applicant.
We'll send you that list.
because, right, he needs all of the properties across the road, get it in, put on. We need the topography.
Propose, if it's-
And proposed house.
You need where the proposed house would be, proposed, well, and septic, of the new house. You will need at some point a shared driveway agreement, and a right-of-way agreement, because if that can come along later in the process, or we can give you
A
a
template.
template of the shared driveway agreement, and Mary Lou, and when she's live, she can review the shared driveway agreement. This is not near. We could have him put the he should be able to get this off of the DEC environmental mapper, which is the high quality forest, which is sort of in the back of lot 2. So he will draw sort of a line showing this is the forest land that we typically prefer not to have a house built there, have it built on the other part of the land. Anybody?
Probably need to ask Mr. Post to come on in and sit with him and go through, this is what you need to put on the maps.
Yeah.
So we'll send him a letter, and then he can obviously call Nicole, et cetera, just to sort of get your map up to snuff. We have the EAF, correct? No, yes. It's attached with the. So he will also, or you guys will have to do and Nicole can send this to you, what is called a short form environmental assessment form. Fill that out. And we can get that to you, or he should do it for you if he's going to be working
I'll
on
do it, I'm sure.
the map. Where's my application tracker? Anybody think of anything?
That's a good place to start.
Did you,
Where driveway?
Yeah, I was,
For so some site did say that.
And is this one shared driveway?
Grandpa's giving it up.
So if he
And that's it.
gets all that together and gets it to us for the next meeting, and it looks pretty good and put together, we could set for a public hearing and hopefully do something in November.
Yep.
All right, thanks for
Thank
patiently
you so
waiting.
much.
Go have a good dinner. That's what I want. Next on the agenda is.
Maren, did you want any, I'm just doing decision-making on the last two. Yes, no, I thought that's what that was gonna be.
What did you ask, I'm sorry?
if she needs to do anything else.
Do you need any kind of an estimate to do that? Because we didn't really do that for the last two people.
Yeah, you're gonna have to come up with how much you're gonna charge for decisions now. Just pure decisions that are plain.
Maybe it just depends, let's just
You want to talk about that?
try for
Yeah, don't come
1,500 and just see if that covers that in the meeting, and then there's some left.
A little steep for a.
1,000. And I'm gonna, okay,
The Schneider also?
what were you thinking? Why don't you just tell me that?
500 to 750. Schneider's a snap.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. It's fine.
And if it takes longer,
I'm only saying it now because you have two people.
Yeah.
as you get into it, it'll go quicker. Probably. So. Seems like.
Damn, was I under me.
No M.
Well, I also discussed with Martin doing something a little simpler. That's templates.
That's good.
All right, next on the
Agenda.
agenda is other matters. And this is local law number 4, and this is amending the zoning map of the town of Rochester for the rezoning of 1819 Burn Road. We have physical copies here, if you would like it, of the presentation that was given to the town board. When the town board is doing a rezoning, they refer it to the Ulster County Planning Board, and they refer it to us also for our input. The note from Kate, this happens when you go PDF to Word to our sort of hood Word, because we don't even really come. So if you have what was, the key things here are that they would like to use the land for agricultural and residential purposes, reinvigorate existing fruit trees and vegetables and flowers. They want to join the Ulster County Ag District and the 2040 Ulster Vision. I remember it was 2020 or 2030. They would like to try to grow different flora that might be amenable to the local climate. And so they would like to request this to be AR3 zone. If you go, and so they came with this idea by talking to Bert Samuelson, that it is easier to get grants and to get ag zone ag district qualifications in Ulster County. Well, it can be done in an R2 district, but if it's AR3, it matches our code better. And it probably will be a smoother process for them. If you go all the way to number 5.
Like a stone hill.
Interesting. It's interesting.
See page number 5, sorry. You see outlined in red, that is where they are as R2. They are the largest in this area. They're the largest contiguous full R2, and they are contiguous to AR3. So it doesn't really look like it would be a spot zoning problem, because this would just be an expansion of the AR3.
Can you say that one more time?
This is the roundabout.
Would not constitute a request that might look like spot zoning, because they are contiguous to AR3 lands. So let's say everything around them was 20 acre and they wanted to do 1 acre, but they're surrounded by 20 acre, it would not make sense because the area would be different.
Who is they that wants to do this?
The applicant is Mr. Wahal
Okay.
and his wife, and I will not do a very good job of saying her last name unless I'm looking at it.
On the question of spot zoning, you said that it would not be considered a spot zone? Because it would be
well defined.
Yes.
Because there is, it's the zone they're requesting is contiguous to their land. So it would
Okay.
really just be an expansion of the current zone.
the current zone is AR3, which is across the other side of the creek.
But it's still,
That's contiguous.
that's contiguous.
Because the property line runs down the middle of the creek, right?
Well, the middle of the creek is R5, it's considered R5.
Almost like a transition from R2 to AR3 to R5.
Well, no, there's R2, 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 there's R5 in the middle, and then AR3 on the other side of the creek.
What is the other 5?
R5 is considered 76.4-4-5.
On this diagram.
Rail trail.
The strip is zone number 5. And I
The
misunderstood.
It is
rail
R5.
trail along the-
R2, 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 R5, AR3.
So we don't.
So I agree with the contiguous comment, just because, yes, it does contour to it, but there is a spot zone R5 in between, if that makes sense.
Take that up with.
That's just a weird thing, 'cause that doesn't affect either one.
5 down below.
I guess the comment of not considered spot zoning is not really accurate, because it hypothetically is considered it, because it does have a split
I
between.
mean, technicality, you might have that are-
Yeah, no, I'm just,
Yeah.
But it isn't at a lower density also?
no, there's
AR3 and AR2.
The thing is when you
AR3
change,
less the density than
R2.
R2.
also when you change the zoning for no good reason. Like you could put a non-spot zoned, non-contiguous parcel if there was a good reason to do so that matched the town's comp plan.
So their purpose for
And
this is
the
for
definition. of
funding and granting, correct?
They would like to, because they want to farm it. I mean, the idea is they want to farm, they're going to farm this, they want to farm it. I mean, if you go on, I didn't go through all of the details because it isn't really our purview at this point, but they have, once upon a time, if you go to number 12, it was Sage's Airport in the 60s. And recently they have black walnut, pears, apples, wildflowers. At one point it was a blueberry farm. Fish, that's marginal. Birch pines are going through grapes. And what they would like to do is, so the runway has all been grassed over, and they would like to bring back the walnuts, the pears, the apples, bring back the orchards more, and try some other vegetables that might be able to grow. There would be East Asian persuasion. They can grow in our climate, but haven't been tried here. So they would like to farm the land.
And what is the density in AR?
Great.
3 acres.
It is bigger lots.
I mean, I guess I don't have any objection to this. I'm personally somewhat confused about the purpose of it. Like, I don't see any harm, but I also don't see that much benefit. And
Which is
that's my reservation about it. Like, it's not an opposition or a reason not to do it. It's just that in my mind,
Nice buffer.
if the town's thinking of changing a zone on a one-off kind of situation, like, I intuitively am looking for a very compelling reason to do so. And in this instance, I'm just personally unclear about what that is. Like, I have a farm that's in an R2 zone.
Yeah,
I've been included in the ag district. I've received numerous grants from the state and the county, like, to use on my R2 parcel.
You're
So-
asking what's the benefit to going AR? What's the
Is
advantage?
ag
What's the advantage for the town?
Is
Ag's allowed as
in
a
R2?
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
principal, ag is a principal permitted use.
Right.
Anywhere.
If it does.
No,
harm,
ag
we
is a,
don't have any
ag is a principal permitted use in R2.
Right.
And the only, I mean, you can do ag processing in AR3 that you can't do in R2, but that's like,
That would be a special use permit perhaps?
they requires a special use permit. I mean, but the question isn't so much what it does for the applicant, the question is what it does for the town.
Right.
And I mean, I guess there is, this parcel does have prime farmland.
The definition, I guess.
It matches the definition of AR3 more closely, but like,
But you're in an R2 district currently with the same perks or benefits or usages.
I don't think there's restrictions meaningfully on use for farming.
What would
But
you
there's-
like? Because we write a letter.
Yeah,
Can I ask another question?
What I would like, I don't like the word precedent, because I think each situation is different from the precedent. However, you know, the case could be made, well, if you did it for this one, why not do it for another one? And if there's no benefit to being in an AR trade, which is what they would like to be, there's no difference in terms of the use from what they are versus what they want to be. Why would we do it?
And I think to Marin's question, my answer to what I would write is that I'm neither supportive or opposed.
Okay,
We're neutral. It's like a town board.
Well, I agree with Sam saying, what's the benefit to the town
And I don't
for
see
the zoning
one.
change?
What's on the other side? Who owns on the other side, the AR3 that, it looks like a.
The parcel that I lease.
That's you.
Elder. Well, it's not me. I lease.
He leases a portion of that parcel, which is.
And then it's also Kelder and the old Davis, not
I should have asked,
Davis.
What is the use on the other side? of it?
everything is farm on the use. If you
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to number 5, it's all farm.
Which,
The other side of the river is
The other
farm.
side of the river is all big farm.
And this parcel, I
And
did
don't-
look it up, because a lot of the land on that side of the river is not as good farmland, but this parcel does have, you know, it is substantially prime farmland.
So there's
So,
no
like-
negative to leaving it the way it is,
Agreed.
nor is there any positive to
Why don't
go.
we just say that we're neutral, let the town board,
That's how I feel. Like,
They have no recommendation.
we have no recommendation. Okay, we're done with that. We have no recommendation.
Well, hold on that.
Oh, we vote on this?
This is
Tim?
what? This is the tree map from the core town.
A recommendation to not have a recommendation. Make a motion.
I would like
Okay, this is my other.
to not make a recommendation. We are neutral on this change.
No, that's fine.
You want to, we should write a letter to that effect, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, we won't, that's what the town board is requesting. right?
Short letter.
But would someone second my motion?
I second
A
it.
neutral letter?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm neutral.
Oh,
Do you want to ask them
abstain.
if they could offer some kind of supportive reasoning? No.
Why don't you just move on, please? Nobody abstained, right? No, just all abstained.
Free tonight. Figured I could ask.
All right, next on the agenda. I am announcing that I am stepping down as chair of the planning board. And I would like personally to nominate, to have Rick Jones replace me as chair.
What he would be doing is, making a motion to recommend to the town board determination.
I would like to make a,
It's very common to make a recommendation from the planning.
I would like to make a recommendation to the town board, although it does say here in town law 271, in the absence of a chairperson, the planning board may designate a member to serve as chairperson. So,
That's right, that's if you're absent, or if you, it's not if you.
Chairperson.
give it up that.
You know, when you're on vacation.
That's,
the town law? That is our local law.
So do you need to,
That's a different situation than stepping down.
so I would like to make a recommendation, to the town board that Rick Jones be appointed as the planning board chair.
That,
All in favor? Aye. Against?
All right.
Exactly.
also like to say in the meeting that I certainly for myself, I think I'm speaking for everyone, we appreciate your service, admirable service as chair of this board. And I know I will be sorry to see you go. I completely understand the reasoning, but I just wanted to express in the meeting.
Well, the alternate is you could also,
can we do that? Can we make a recommendation to the town board that you would fulfill Rick's vacant seat as a board member
No,
on the
that's,
planning board?
that was a motion to recommend, right?
We make a motion to recommend Maren to fulfill Rick's vacant seat as the chairperson.
I don't think that's necessary, because the chair is an additional, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Right. so
That doesn't
it's already.
So then she's going to,
That continues till her expiration or.
Don't put it that way. It's like it's expired.
so Maren, you will just become a board member.
I just become a board
She's a
member
board
and I get
member.
smellier as I
Yeah.
approach my expiration, correct? Well, no.
So you're just moving seats.
I'm just moving seats.
Okay.
And are the terms the same as my current term and Lauren's current term?
Well, that also, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Is appointed for this year as the chair. Her regular term is independent.
Okay, there you go.
If
As
the
is yours.
board appoints you, Rick, as the chairman, that will be until December, and then they'll make another appointment or reappoint you in January. So in December, you guys might want to make your recommendation to the town board for next year. But they do that every January at their organizational meeting. They name the chairs to zoning and planning and what have you.
Okay. Perfect. And then the next, do you say this is executive session? The letter that we received.
Hold on, wait. Just so everyone knows, I have to end the live stream also. I just want to make sure that if we're going, once we vote,
Mary Lou, you received a letter that you mentioned we might have to go into executive session,
Yeah,
so.
because, when I first had a message from.
So should we say that and stop the live stream at this juncture and take everybody out?
Ask for executive session at the workshop.
Oh, okay, perfect.
I want everyone to have time to read through it. It just got it today. I just.
Yeah, and nobody's looked at it, perfect.
Yeah. Nope, we don't.
haven't looked at it completely. Oh, God.
Sorry, I totally misunderstood.
So we can make sure.
I think then we'll have to, at our workshop
Yes.
meeting, have an executive session. We'll go through that letter and discuss it.
Perfect,
Okay?
perfect, thank
Then we
you.
can adjourn.
We can adjourn.
So I make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?